bring in Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera's senior political analyst. He joins us from Doha. Marwan, we often come to you to try and tie different dynamics together. And as I was saying, what Cyril is covering there in Washington, D.C., very much part of what we are witnessing even now as you're on screen, Marwan. We've got some live pictures up looking at Ophir prison as well as that military helicopter. And I guess one of the key questions on the minds of many people across this region and around the world is, does it come down to Donald Trump now to answer the question as to whether this deal is going to get to the end of phase 3 or not?
There's no doubt that the next American administration will have a major role to play. Now, whether this role is constructive or destructive remains to be seen. Some of our guests out of Washington sound to me like some of the guests or some of the various commentators out of Tehran or out of Moscow, in the sense that they are so subjective that it takes people like you, myself, who are, kind of look at all of this from a bit of a distance to see that when an American talk about an Iranian as a troublemaker in the Middle East, especially when he's a former official or what have you, they don't understand how much of a troublemaker America has been in the Middle East, from the invasion of Iraq, the invasion of Afghanistan, to the intervention of Libya, and even since the intervention in Syria, Iran, and Lebanon, and so forth, let alone Israel, Palestine. So clearly, for us to look objectively at it, there are two schools of thinking now. One that says, look, Trump is unpredictable. He is transactional. He will be looking out for American interests, and he wants peace, as several of our American guests said over the past 72 hours. That he's a man of peace, he's transactional, he's looking for American interests, and he was very, very determined from day one. He told Netanyahu, sign on the peace deal. So this is the peaceful Trump that wants a Nobel Peace Prize. And then there is the other school that says, look, we had him for 4 years from 2017 to 2021. We know what he stands for. We know how he recognized the annexation of East Jerusalem, of the Golan Heights, both of them occupied, against international law, how much he gave unconditional support to the Netanyahu government, and so on and so forth. And that he, before even getting into the White House, have appointed a number of staunchly pro-Netanyahu lieutenants, from the Secretary of State to the UN ambassador, to the Israel ambassador, to the special envoy to the Middle East, even the National Security Advisor. All of them are admirers of Netanyahu, and hence you would expect him to be unconditionally supportive of Netanyahu, even more so than Biden. Which Trump, or should the real Trump take the first step? We will see. I, personally, of course, I'm not very optimistic.
You're not very optimistic. How do you, I wonder if your optimism increases or, but hope, okay. I wonder if it increases or decreases, though, when it comes to analyzing the question of, did Donald Trump give commitments to Netanyahu in order to get this deal over the finish line? And I'm sure you know all of the talk about whether there was promises made on recognizing annexation of the West Bank, lifting sanctions on settlers, or the big golden prize going after Iran.
I actually been saying that from day one, as soon as we realized that Trump is getting involved, that there's going to be something that he's going to be giving Netanyahu. Because look, at the end of the day, there wasn't going to be a ceasefire if there wasn't going to be a new administration. Why? Because Netanyahu wasn't going to sell his concessions of a ceasefire to an administration that was heading out. There was no point. He wouldn't be getting any political capital out of it. The only way he could get something in return is if he sells it to the coming administration, the Trump administration. And hence he waited all this time, and Biden, in fact, it was the one who bought him the time, until we got thus far. And Trump wanted it to be done before January 20th. So he said, look, you just sign on to this, and I promise you we can work together. And apparently, according to Netanyahu, he told him, just do the first phase, and if you have to get out after the first phase, we will allow you, and we'll actually give you all the arms that you need, according to Netanyahu, right? So there is a Trump that is probably planning to expand the Abraham Accord to include Saudi Arabia. And he might, again, do more of the same, recognition of annexations as in East Jerusalem. So these have track records. There's precedent to them. And Trump could do them again. Now, Iran is a different question. I agree with some of the earlier guests we had on that we don't know if he's going to go to the peacemaking track with Iran, because Iran is ready. Iran was ready before October 7 and before Israel hit Iran. As soon as it elected a new presidency in Iran, it's because Tehran is ready to make a deal with the United States if the United States is ready to make a deal.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.